To help us explore the critical questions we have, we are joined by two distinguished experts, Ahmed Maharem, a writer and political researcher from Washington, and Ihab Omar, a journalist at Al-Ahram newspaper from Cairo. They bring us deep insights into the political dynamics, humanitarian challenges, and international dimensions shaping Gaza's future. Thank you both for joining us here on Think Tank. Let's start off with you, Ahmed. How significant is Hamas's positive response to the ceasefire proposal? Does this signal a real chance for peace here?
Well, after years, I think from Hamas' point, they are 100% positive because this is not the first time, and I hope it will not be the last time. Israeli are always trying to put Hamas in a bad position, that they are not trying to be helpful or cooperative. But this time, I think Hamas answered that they are ready to deal with that kind of conflict to have an end. I think after more than 20 months of the conflict, nobody has the answer what will be looks like the day after or the second day when the war will be stopped. The negotiation that can be a ceasefire for 2 months or 60 days, it's a good sign. But the main question, or the very hard question nobody will be ready to answer, is what will be next? Is that a kind of rest for both sides to start again conflict to be continued, or that's a good sign that the conflict will be over and the Palestinian can be restored back to live their own and easy life? I think someone has to answer these questions, especially American. They have to deal something strongly when Yamin Netanyahu is traveling to Washington on Monday. This kind of visit is the third visit by the time of President Trump for the second time on the White House. I think something America has to deal with the conflict in a positive way to show their friends in the area that they are very keen interest to push back. Benjamin Netanyahu has to stop this kind of crime.
Okay, Ihab, if we can get your perspective here, what are the main sticking points that remain unresolved when it comes to ceasefire negotiations? One of the issues that we know for sure is the Israeli pullback, but what other issues could there be as well when it comes to the negotiations?
Greetings to you and to your honorable guest. Of course, the sticking point is not now the Hamas movement. With the mediation, the sticking point is not the non-resumption of the fight once again, and not to give Israel an opportunity to break the truce. There must be more serious guarantees for a true cessation of hostilities, and this can be done through scheduling the Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip and not to have more opportunities for redeployment of Israeli troops in the Gaza Strip. There must be a schedule and agreed upon timeline, as well as a timeline for the detainee exchange, and this will be the equation we can base upon any negotiations or talks. And since the first day of the war, or even through the past phase since last January when Trump took office in 2025, there must be guarantees for an Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip during the 60 days and not after, to start the first phase so that the fight is not resumed later. Dr. Badr Abdulati, Egyptian foreign minister, talked about that after the truce, Egypt will extend invitation for the reconstruction conference for the Egyptian vision for early recovery and reconstruction in the Gaza Strip, with Palestinians remaining on their lands. And this would take us that the Egyptian vision for and reading to this war will actually rise upon all the negative or demonic readings or visions that Netanyahu proposed to evacuate the Palestinian populations out of land. And after 6 months, the Egyptian diplomacy and the Egyptian state achieved their victory, as on the ground there are no findings that would lead Netanyahu or Trump to carry out their terrorist schemes.
Okay, now Ahmed, back to you again. Now, you spoke about the idea of previous ceasefire negotiations and proposals as well as attempts. Now, how credible is the 60-day ceasefire proposal given the previous history? Do you think that even if it does go through, that it will continue to follow, or the Israeli side will continue to follow through, as they have been known to break these ceasefire agreements?
I don't think this time Benjamin Netanyahu has to be more serious, not only to listen to what the advice or push can come over his head from President Trump. America has to do something much better. And for more than 20 months, I think Israel has not actually achieved any of their objectives on that kind of conflict. Nothing happened to show that Benjamin Netanyahu was really successful. So I think he has to be more realistic, to listen to his different kind of advices, even from his own cabinet, or the pressure. I think it was expected that can be truly from the upcoming Monday visit to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has a very important role to do, because not because to be more complement and extensive assistance in all sides to Israel, but not to lose the best relation with the Arab countries and the Middle East conflict on the future.
So you think, sir, that Trump will probably pressure Netanyahu into taking the proposal itself?
I hope this time he will be able to take the proposal, because the 12 war between Iran and Israel shows that the international world are watching that Israel cannot continue for such a struggle by itself. It has to remain or to depend chiefly on America, and America will not be in a position to put itself in a matter that the international world will be against America itself.
Okay, now Ihab, over to you. What role is the United States playing when it comes to mediating the ceasefire, and how might President Trump's direct involvement influence the outcome? Now, we've seen the role of the Americans in other ceasefire negotiations, as Ahmed had to set there when it comes to the Iranian conflict. How direct will they be when it comes to the Gaza conflict?
First, the United States of America is providing mediation between Israel and Hamas or any other Palestinian action. Is a hypothesis that the Arabs had to entertain. As a matter of fact, it's very ironic, because the United States has a clear bias. They completely support Israel, and Israel is carrying out a U.S. vision in the region. But the Arabs took this vision hoping for a true peace process and for a halt of these wars and aggressions. And therefore the United States of America has a very different positioning now compared to the Biden administration reign. Trump now is trying to portray himself as a man of peace, as a U.S. president worthy of a Nobel Prize for peace. And that he's able to follow through with his campaign promises to end the conflicts in Gaza and in the Middle East, and he is not going to cost the U.S. Treasury the support of Israel in absurd wars. And here I would highlight the Egyptian mediation role, that we were able to hold Trump accountable for his campaign promises and his responsibilities before Europe and for the US people themselves. Trump, in one situation after another, is now more convinced of the Egyptian vision to end this war by a ceasefire agreement without any form of displacement for Palestinians and without a new de facto in the Middle East that would contradict the Egyptian national security and the Arab national security. The US role now is to slow things down and to impose a truce after they have lost a lot, providing support to Israel to raid southern Gaza. Now it's only deployment without true defeat, and this is their portrayal in the media. But Israel is now trying to eliminate the Gaza political dimension, targeting the political leaderships of Gaza, of Hamas outside of Gaza. And we now can see Iran without any regional program, without a regional project, and the nuclear program is now going to be stopped for at least 1 year or two, and this is enough for the US and Israel to end the war and announce victory.
Okay, now Ahmed, over to you. Now, what would governance look like in Gaza after the ceasefire proposal? Who would likely be holding power? Now, you spoke a little bit about the day after and how it's going to be a bit complicated. But what about the power struggle that may occur in Gaza?
Well, the day after the second day of the war, it's a very sensitive and very important question, but nobody actually will be able to answer who will take care of the reconstruction, who will take care of humanitarian assistance, who will take care of how those Palestinians, thousands and hundreds of thousands of them have to be replaced somewhere. There is no housing, there is no other facilities. So it's a big question financially, and on the ground to achieve the kind of damage can be reclaimed or to be restored in a very short period. It's a very unusual question, and I don't think that America itself has the proper answer to do that.
So, sir, you believe that there isn't going to be a framework for who governs Gaza after this? I mean, if Hamas is out of the picture, who will take their place?
Well, the Palestinian people, the Hamas people, I mean, the local people of the area themselves are ready to do whatever they have done, but they need a very huge amount of humanitarian assistance from the whole global. It's not only the region. Usually, after all this kind of conflict, we used to hear that Gulf states, the Arab countries, are cooperating and putting a big, huge financial assistance to rebuild again. And now the countries, they would like to assure that there is no more conflict will happen. They would like to be sure that the rebuild of Gaza again will not happen as it happened before.
So is your belief here that Hamas's future is in question and their leadership or military capabilities may be taken out of the picture coming or with the negotiations ongoing?
Hamas has a point. They consider that they represented the Palestinian people, and they will not be able to, to surrender and go out of the country as Benjamin Netanyahu is wishing. I think with the continuation of Hamas being on the land, they represented their own national people. Something has to be done in that very critical point. Israel is dreaming that the top of their dream that Hamas will be out of the country. It will never happen. And Israel has to be more realistic to consider Hamas is a part of the Palestinian history.
Okay, Ihab, now let's get your perspective here. How might the fate of Hamas affect the broader Palestinian political landscape? And do you agree that Hamas cannot be taken out of the picture?
Undoubtedly, Israel would actually seek to truly withdraw from the Gaza Strip after they planted the idea of armed militias inside Gaza. This is the most probable scenario for the day next to the war. Hamas cannot be taken out of the Gaza scene, but their efficiency, their influence can be undermined. Now the Hamas movement, to take realistically, they have no political office, they have no military formation or military unified leadership for the Hamas movement and the Gaza Strip, and consequently, practically, without any beautifying the situation, Hamas is unable to find to govern Gaza. There is a lot of shortage in leadership at the military and civilian level, and even the Hamas leadership outside of Gaza are only 2 or 3 remaining. Is one of them, and they are now have a direct affiliation with Iran. So we are going to see some divisions inside the Gaza Strip, and this can be solved by the Palestinian Committee to be formed under the Egyptian initiatives with cooperation with the United Nations and the reconstruction conference. The Hamas welcomed this, and they recognized that and acknowledged that they are unable to solely govern Gaza.
So you think,
so
sir,
they will form a technocratic government.
So, sir, do you think that there's a possibility that Hamas will relinquish power and have some sort of, unity government with different factions within the Gaza Strip?
I wouldn't say relinquish or give. As a matter of fact, the Hamas actually needs a Palestinian partner now, a moderate Palestinian partner with Egyptian sponsorship to govern Gaza, because Hamas alone will not be able to govern or rule Gaza after the 2-year war.
Okay, now Ahmed, back to you again. What role can the international community realistically play in the Gaza reconstruction process? This is going to be very complicated and quite big.
Well, international is not only America. It is a very important area to the that they have to assist not only financially, but there is so many aspects where they can reconstruct not only the building or the facilities, but the people of Gaza. There is 2 million are in need of so many resources: health issue, education issue, housing. International world, I think, has to come up with some kind of proposal. It will take years in order to take a responsibility. It's not only to rebuild. It is the amount of damage happened for the last 20 months needs years and years to reclaim, to clean. There is huge of things has to be done. Financial is a part of it. But more than that, I think the international world has to show they're serious, how they can assist the Palestinians and stand by the unity of the Palestinian people.
Okay, now Ihab, let me ask you the same question here. Now, we've seen in the past, donor conferences for Gaza, for reconstruction over the years, but the scale of destruction that we're seeing today has never been seen in the Gaza Strip. What do you think are the estimated costs or the timeline to rebuild the Gaza Strip? And until it is rebuilt, what are we going to do with the people there? What's going to happen to them?
Of course, it's unprecedented volume of destruction, and it's unprecedented in the history of the human history. We have seen after the World War II, we have seen Japan, and once the intentions are there, true intentions, the reconstruction is a possibility. The intention is there. We have it in Egypt, and we will establish a world fund, a global fund for the financing of the reconstruction, and we have an Egyptian plan that would take 5 to 8 years without relocating the population of the Gaza Strip. We have a detailed plan to rebuild the Strip, and it will need staff and labor, and therefore the Gaza reconstruction will require the people of Gaza themselves to carry out the process. So the hypothesis of taking them out or relocating them only for the reconstruction, it goes against the reconstruction process itself. We have a detailed plan to engage the Gaza people in the reconstruction process that will take 5 to 7 years with a global fund to finance the operations, and this can be launched in the next day to the war. The reconstruction of Gaza is possible with Egyptian planning and Palestinian labor without relocating the population at all.
Okay, now Ahmed, what about the humanitarian aid aspect here? Now, how can humanitarian aid be effectively delivered and monitored during and after the ceasefire? Because we've seen that it's been quite abysmal with the GHF there right now.
Well, unless the Israeli leadership has to show some kind of seriousness in that point, humanitarian will be always a kind of very sensitive question, because for the last 2 months, the way America and Israel are trying from their point to distribute the food assistance and the other supplies, it shows that it's not a matter of supplying people with what they need. It's a killing point. They try to strap people to the area where they distribute, and then they kill them directly. I think that point has to come back to UNRWA. UNRWA, for years, used to be the only official representative by the United Nations, by the global assist to the Palestinian people. UNRWA has to come back immediately with no late.
Okay, what are the main challenges Gaza faces in terms of infrastructure, economy, and social cohesion? Now, you spoke a bit about the Egyptian plan there, but what about the governance there? How are they going to handle things economically and when it comes to social cohesion?
The Egyptian plan included a timeline to run an election and reconciliation, Palestinian reconciliation. The PLO engagement also is highly important. We have seen President Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazen before the issuance of the Egyptian plan. He created a new position for a vice president, and he called for early elections after the war. So the idea of looking for foreign finance and for job opportunities in the Gaza Strip, and to my estimate that the Arab states that went and Syria after the fall down of the Bashar al-Assad regime will be there present to support the Palestinian people next to the war. And undoubtedly the wars leave behind very difficult societal and financial situations, but once this war is over, the suffering of the Palestinian people will be an incentive to rebuild the economy and reconstruct the society once again after the heroship that they have demonstrated with the initiatives to be displaced into consideration.
Okay, now Ahmed, what about the impact of Israel's current political stance, especially Netanyahu's hardline approach, along with some members of the government, if not most of them, have on the future of the ceasefire and Gaza's future? Because the dialogue obviously has been quite genocidal or seeking, the displacement of Palestinians. How is this going to affect the negotiations?
Well, I think there is a different kind of pressure on Netanyahu's local pressure from his own people, and the local pressure from the military leaders, pressure from the American administration, and the pressure from the global. This kind of conclusion pressure will put, I think, Benjamin Netanyahu in a position that something serious has to be done, is not to be escaped to the front. Very successfully, open mouth said that I'm fighting on 7 different areas. Iran will be next. So I think with the 12 days of the unsuccessful war with Iran will put him in a corner that he has to be more realistic and more listen to what advice I think will come to him from the White House next Monday visit.
Okay, thank you. That was Ahmed Maharem and Ihab Omar. Thank you so much for your insights, and thank you for joining me here on Think Tank.